I consider myself lucky when it comes to cycling shoes. I have a narrow foot. I can pretty much slip into anything. Fatty, what about you? Are you narrow or wide or something in between?
I am no Cinderella, Hottie. I am more of a hobbit. I've got very wide feet and pretty pronounced bunions to go with them.
Oh, yeah, I really feel for people with wide feet, especially. The cycling shoe in particular can be a nightmare with how stiff and unforgiving it can be. For those folks, we want to point you to Shimano shoes. I recently took a look at Shimano's 3 leading XC shoes. There's Fatty's Kicks, the S-Fire XC9, the XC7, and the XC5s. And all of them come in wide in sizes 40 to 48. That's got to be a relief for anyone who has crammed their toes into a narrow Italian shoe.
I am raising my hand as a 43 wide right here. You've just identified a thing that I love about my S-Fires, both for road and for mountain biking. For folks like me, being able to get a wide shoe is the difference between a good day and a very, very bad day on a bike. And there is more good news for people looking for a bigger toe box. Shimano's leading gravel shoes, the RX-8 and the RX-6, are also available in wide. And we mentioned these shoes because our contact at Shimano says that these are a great choice for Leadville because they tend to be a little lighter and sometimes stiffer than their cross-country brethren.
So if your dogs are barking when you ride, check out the Shimano shoe lineup. Your feet will thank you. The shoes we mentioned can be found at bike.shimano.com.
3, 2,
1. Leadville, the podcast for the 100-mile mountain bike race presented by Shimano. It is Season 7, Episode 14 of the show that breaks down, builds up, gets you ready, and freaks you out for the highest, hardest one-day mountain bike race in the country. I'm Michael Hotton, Hottie to most.
And I'm Fatty. This is an important episode. We're speaking with Race Director Tamira Jenlink, who has some important updates for the 2024 Leadville Trail 100 mountain bike race. In fact, it is so important that we are skipping our normal segment here, my Fatty's finishing tips, so we can dedicate the whole episode to what's in store for you in your race this summer.
Right, so let's take care of a little more business and get straight to Tamira. We've seen the pictures and reports too. Envy is testing a new cross-country wheel set. When he's not riding the M5s, Envy rider Alexei Vermeulen has been riding these new prototypes and providing feedback.
Yep, companies can only hide their projects for so long. And with a company like Envy, the press and the tech geeks will always have an eye out for the next thing in carbon components. But here is the thing with Envy. They take their time with engineering and development. Their latest bike, the Fray, was being field tested for more than a year before it finally made it to market.
Yeah, and the entire M-Series line of wheels had more than 1,000 prototypes before finally being released. So while there's plenty of reason to be excited about a new set of XC wheels possibly coming to the market, we'd say don't wait until the last minute and end up on the start line with an inferior set of wheels. I have an old set of M50s, and they are still as race-worthy as the M525s.
Yep, we wish we knew more about what these new wheels are, but we don't. My best advice, and Hottie's, is monitor the website, enve.com, and don't wait. If you need wheels, get them.
If you've been checking the Race Series website or follow the Leadville Race Series media channels, then you are probably aware the Trail 100 mountain bike and run are getting some significant changes. We got new rules about how to get to Twin Lakes Dam, a slight course change, a new feed zone and checkpoint, and a new corral, to name a few.
Yeah, just a few. If you're a runner, by the way, thanks for joining. We're going to be talking about the mountain bike race primarily, although some of this is going to apply to you as well. Riders, this is an episode you might want to listen to twice, and may we suggest that you follow along with the Race Series Bible. Here's a quick link to get to it, leadville.fm/guide. This will hopefully help as you prepare for the second Saturday in August. Race Director Tamira Jenlink is here to explain the changes and the challenges as the 100-mile mountain bike race heads for its 30th edition. Tamira Jenlink, always a pleasure to have you on the show. Thanks so much. We're super excited to hear what you have to tell us.
Really great to be here. Thanks, guys, for having me on. Appreciate it.
There have been rumors and articles and conversations about changes to the Leadville Trail 100, and that's really what we want to focus on in this episode. So let's start from first principles. Why have you been making changes, and what are they?
Great question, Eldon. Appreciate that sort of intro. It's been a long process over the last few months of really looking at what has been the central points that are wonderful and working well, and what still continues to be places we can refine things. And this has been an effort among all of our local agencies, law enforcement, search and rescue, medical, in that. So the hospital and ambulance is separate from search and rescue. Government, city, county, Forest Service, the Bureau of Reclamation, Bureau of Land Management, like all of us together going, okay, 40 years ago, and for the mountain bike, 30 years ago this year, when this all started, we started with 45 people on the line for the run, and now we're 7 weeks, 7 weekends, and multiple events strong, and sometimes 8,000 people here for these events. And as we looked at all of that and have been watching it the last few years, we've realized that there are 3 key areas that are really, we have to make better ultimately. And those revolve around athlete safety, emergency services access, and then the traffic overall. And, this is very simple. When you have 9,000, 7,000, 8,000, 9,000 between those 2 weeks of time, you're seeing impacts all the way from Leadville to Aspen. And we are now getting feedback from Aspen that they can't respond in a safe manner from their side either. So we really had to take a hard look at how, and particularly around that State Highway 82 out by Twin Lakes, we had an accident out there last year that was not necessarily directly correlated with the event. However, who knows, with all the traffic, I'm sure there was some kind of portion of it that was related. But in that, we also look at, okay, how long did it take for emergency services to respond? And luckily, that wasn't a serious life and death accident at that moment, but there were still needs. And we've been very, I think, fortunate to this point to not see any more significant impacts. So all of those agencies sitting down, a lot of these changes are all these changes are coming from that. We've got a couple of things that are just, we think will make it a better experience overall, but the athlete safety, emergency services, and traffic. And that traffic piece, we're going to actually be looking at from the Aspen side all the way over. So Aspen will start to see signs on that side to say, hey, there's events happening today. You may see a delay because these folks are coming in from Aspen not knowing what's happening when they get over to Leadville and being backed up the mountain there. So it's grown, and it's a wonderful problem to have. And it has been, the whole point of these events is based around economic development and economic sustainability, vitality, all those pieces. Ken and Mary Lee started this with that in mind, and I think we can all say it has been successful.
So to reduce traffic, obviously, we're talking about the Highway 82, folks. That's the main road that runs between Aspen and Highway 24, the road that moves in and out of Leadville, northbound along the Arkansas Valley. And I suppose, Tamara, one of the key things you got to do there is reduce traffic onto Highway 82. That's where Twin Lakes Dam is. That's where people drive to get to Twin Lakes Dam, the main feeding zone. What is going to happen then to reduce what's the main thing you're going to do to reduce traffic?
Essentially, the main thing we're going to do is we're going to shift to a phased approach of shuttling from Outward Bound. We've really worked long and hard these last few months with Outward Bound, which is, an organization that's been in play since the 70s, and we've had a base camp here in Leadville since that time, and an amazing partner. And we've worked really, we started to implement this in the last few years where we were building up the parking out there and building up the shuttling from that hub, and we will start to shuttle more people. But this phased approach essentially is going to look at getting the bulk of humans to park at Outward Bound and shuttling them. And as you can imagine, that means we've got to really be on top of those shuttles, and we've got to be on top of the timing and all those different pieces. So there's been a lot of work kind of setting that up. But the big change you're going to see is that phased approach. And really, this is, again, I want to just highlight the fact that we have not seen a motorist and athlete and or pedestrian interaction on that highway to this point is kind of a miracle. And so we're thankful to be in front of it and actually have this partnership in place with Outward Bound, to be able to phase this in. And essentially what we'll do is from the start, we'll have folks able to park out at Outward Bound, and we'll run a shuttle system. They can actually be out there before the start of the race. They can start riding shuttles from 5 a.m. and all park out there. And we've got the capacity to park an enormous amount of our athletes and our crews out in that area.
Now, I think that probably most runners or people associated with the Leadville Trail 100 run know what Outward Bound is. But until I was at all involved with that run and watched that a couple of times, I would not have known what Outward Bound is. So tell us what that is and where it is.
No, thank you. And that is, I appreciate that, because that also lends itself to a change we're going to make, just a small change in the course out in that area. So as folks are coming through the race and they're coming down Power Line, they come around the fish hatchery. And they have historically come around the fish hatchery and been on State Highway 300 for a mile in there, and then turning right, if you're outbound, turning right onto County Road 11. And what we're doing, the Trail 100 run course actually turns into, and that property all along that section is the Outward Bound. They own that property. So Outward Bound is an experiential education adventure sort of programming group that's been in place since I said the 70s. And they own a huge, expansive amount of property out in that area. And so to this point, for 29 years, the mountain bike has come around the highway, around their property, and turned right and still continued to parallel their property all the way over to the gravel pit that brings them into the pipeline. So basically, you're talking about a section of property that's just instrumentally between the fish hatchery and pipeline. And what we're going to do is actually make Outward Bound a hub this year. And we're going to push that traffic and the course, we're going to push the course into the same way that Trail 100. The Trail 100 actually runs through their property instead of along the highway. So we're doing some work on the trail with Cloud City Wheelers this year. And Sterling from Cloud City Wheelers has been kind enough to actually already been out there, assessed it with Brock, who is the facilities manager out there, and they're coming up with a plan so that we can, I think, increase the safety overall of the experience for everybody, but particularly for our athletes. Now we're taking them off the highway, which outbound isn't that crazy. So I'm kind of giving you two things at once here, but just to paint that picture, they'll for about a mile go through that Outward Bound property and come out just before the gravel pit where they would come into the pipeline. So it is that section. Does that help clarify it? Eldon, does that give you a picture?
Yeah. So essentially, we are eliminating a lot of the paved part between where we get off the power line and when we get into Twin Lakes. That there's essentially an elbow-shaped connector that puts us on dirt. Is that going to be single track? Is that going to be double track? Is that going to be easy for folks to pass each other? Tell me about that.
It's a mile, Eldon. It's a mile.
We care about every one of them.
I know you do. It'll be single track. And, we're definitely working closely with Outward Bound on this. That's a conservation easement. And we have gone through the land trust. We've gone through all the appropriate measures to refine that trail, but not create larger trail than what is already what is there for the run. Actually, a lot of it by springtime when it melts off and thaws is there. There's a hint of it there, but it's not. It still has overgrown with the spring runoff. So we'll go in and it'll still be kind of single track.
The runners seem to just run through a field. Now, I have not done the run. I've not worked the run at all. So is this going to be a more defined trail for the bikes?
Yeah, like I was kind of mentioning, Cloud City Wheelers and Sterling, we're going to come in and actually refine that trail.
Will it follow kind of the same path that the runners take?
It will very much follow the same path.
Okay, got it. Okay, let me ask one more question there, Fatty. So, Tamara, as we go outbound and we go past the fish hatchery, and then we're on the 300, right? And we're going eastbound on the 300. How early after that kind of that long left bend past the fish hatchery do we turn? Will the riders turn right and enter the dirt there at Outward Bound?
From the fish hatchery, it's less than probably a half a mile. So if you think about coming around the last curve as it goes into the straightaway, you're going to turn pretty much as soon as you get onto the straightaway. You got a little bit of that straightaway, but not much.
And before we move too far away from the course alteration, Tamara, have you been able to map out yet where The new single track moving off the 300 will rejoin the course we all know right now.
It is before you cross the river, if you will, on County Road 11.
So right now, or the old course would go down County Road 11. We'd turn right onto that double track and work along the fence line, then work behind the gravel pit.
It's before that. So when you come down the pavement, so you've turned right onto County Road 11, and you're going, it's probably not a mile. It's probably half to 3/4 of a mile, and it will intersect there. But you actually, if you think about it, when you've gone down that, there's a significant down and then up, and you're actually crossing the river there. It will come out before that. And that's before, say, Half Moon.
So it actually, the new single track will actually join in with the 11 briefly, and then you'll continue on the normal course.
Then you'll be on the normal course. Everything will be the same. Yep. And what it does, we hope, it takes out that part of the pavement. What we think is going to be interesting to see is how that looks on the times for the wind tunnel that you get on the inbound coming home.
Yes.
We are, you're taking out a section of that pavement and a section of that very clear, flat headwind that often shows up oddly right at the time when people are going home.
We know it well. We've all suffered through that section often.
Yeah, it's amazing how, I mean, that is the section that, we love to hate. And we'll see how it changes times, because I don't think that this actually affects distance very much. But it's dirt where there used to be pavement, single track where there used to be, people could ride in a pace line. So it's going to change something for someone. Is this new trail going to be used in the stage race? And is it accessible for folks who are just out for a fun, pre-riding weekend before the race?
Stage race, yes, we're going to use it in the stage race just to help get people used to it. Please do not go on the course. It's private property in training time. So you would need to stay on 300 and County Road 11 in non-event days. So stage race, you'll get an opportunity if you happen to be one of the lucky humans who is able to secure one of those spots. You will get an opportunity to pre-ride that section then. If you can stay off of it in the non-event days, that'd be great.
I want to kind of go back to, from this pretty minor but still meaningful change to the course, to how it is, how this outward bound area is going to be affecting crew, and how it is going to be affecting racers, and how it is going to be affecting our aid station setup. Because of course, this outward bound area is just a couple of miles tops away from the traditional pipeline stations.
We are making a big shift there, we think, to some degree, but a really positive one, in that outward bound will now become the primary aid station. Pipeline will stay in place. So pipeline is an alternate. So now we have two very significant areas for parking and crewing. There will not be an aid station by the race series at Pipeline. That will be at outward bound. At Pipeline, you'll be able to still do the same things you've always done over the years, park and crew and all those parts and pieces. Timing mats, arch, all of those pieces will be at outward bound this year. And then by that means, I think it just makes it easier for the folks as they park there. If I'm getting on a shuttle, I'm getting on my shuttle right there. If I'm going to outward bound, I'm going right there. Once that lot is full, which we don't actually anticipate that it will, and we know that some folks are going to want to be at Pipeline anyway, much like we have Twin Lakes and we have Lost Canyon alternate, it's going to look like that, except for it's much closer together, right? Those are only a couple miles apart. And right around the corner from each other. So both significant areas, but the main hub will now be at outward bound.
Tamara, I think one of the things that is the most significant is what is changing for crews with the shuttles, and where and how soon people can set up their gear. So maybe you can just go ahead and walk us through the essentials of that. Imagine I am my wife's crew person. I've just watched her leave the starting line. How does my day go from there?
Yeah, awesome. So I think what you can expect is, as has always been the case, if you're going to, whether you were driving to Twin Lakes or now driving to outward bound to park, we're probably going to see that slow up for a little bit as we get everybody out to outward bound and get them parked. The beauty of that is we hope that that's a very limited 2-hour block. We get everybody out there and get them parked, and now we've decreased that congestion overall. But you'll move out, you'll drive out to outward bound. There'll be a parking crew out there that will direct you exactly where you need to go. They'll show you, there'll be signage for everything. a lot of humans directing you, shuttles ready to go. We'll have about, right now, it looks like we'll have 20 to 22 shuttles and the capacity to move in excess of 700, 800 people at a time. So what that means is we can get the bulk of humans out there inside of the first humans getting over there. We'll talk a little bit more about this phased approach around that in just a minute, but just to kind of give you the broad overstroke real quick, and then we can kind of dig into the finer points. So you come out, you park, you get on the shuttle. But before that, I think what's really critical is, okay, I'm on a shuttle, and we know that our crews love to be prepared for the day, and that means a lot of gear and a lot of different items that they like to bring with them. So what we've done is really work with the Forest Service, Twin Lakes, and all of the sort of partners in this area. On Friday this year, this will be brand new for this year, we'll be able to start setup at Twin Lakes Dam at 2:00 p.m. That is different than it has been in the past. It's been 5, it's been 6 o'clock, it's been no, you can't be out there at all. It's been a lot of things. This year, clearly stated, 2:00 p.m. we'll have everybody bring out, and what we want them to do, and this is Friday, August 9th, the day before the race. We want people to not get too crazy, feeling like they have to rush out there. It's going to be what it's going to be. But for years, people have been going out at 5, 6 o'clock. And you're going to see our staff out there. Our staff will be out there during the week moving forward. So coming out earlier is only going to cause more problems, and you're going to end up with your stuff probably not where you want it to be and not able to be found. So please do stick with these plans that we've worked hard at. But essentially, we'll have staff out there. We'd love to see you bringing all big items. Tents, chairs, tables, whatever it is that you feel like you really have to have for that day, please bring on Friday. Coolers as well. What we want to see on the shuttles on Saturday is people getting on the shuttle with basically what fits in their lap or under their seat, and they're not using up more seats, because we want to be able to move people efficiently and effectively out to the location where they're headed. And, again, this is a phased approach, so I'll talk about that as well. We are going to have some limited driving out there, but we had to look at that through a very specific lens of how do we determine how we do this. So we're going to have some limited driving, but essentially the bulk of the humans we're going to be pushing towards Outward Bound and then getting you on a shuttle on Saturday morning. Now, if we just take that part and kind of parse it out and talk through what is that phased approach. So to ensure that we kind of work through all the kinks and understand how is this model, this is a big shift. This is a big change. And we want to ensure that to the best of our ability, everybody's ability to get their hydration and nutrition to their athlete. And we know that our crews probably stress over this more than their athletes do to some degree, making sure that they can really take good care of their athletes. In that mindset, in taking this phased approach, we had to look at, okay, we have worked with the Forest Service and with the Bureau of Reclamation and the land management, with all of our open space, with all these property owners and different public stewards to determine what do we feel like is safe. All right, well, we believe at this point, what we got sort of permission with everybody and the partnership that we came up with is for this year, as we phase this approach in, that we could park a limited number of cars inside of County Road 25, which is the road that you turn off of on State Highway 82 going up to the dam. So we can park a limited number of cars there. Okay, how do we decide who that is? This was a big question that we really looked at and tried to discern. And frankly, we know from Ken and Marilee forward, this has been about the middle to the back of the pack as much as anything. And this has left us in this quandary because we also know that the humans who are going to make it out there first are the folks riding for a sub-9. So with this in mind and this phased approach, this year at least, we will do, based on sort of those first 3 corrals, gold, silver, red, a parking pass that goes with those to help us kind of learn, essentially, who's getting out there, how many folks, how are we managing this? But we wanted to be clear that we get everybody safely to their place with their athlete in the right time frame. So this year, gold, red, silver will have the ability to drive out there. That gave us a very focused, targeted number that we could agree on as partners across all of the agencies in terms of what the cap would be and that there would be a clear cap and we could understand who that was. This was also something that we thought about from the angle of, gosh, what if we did first come, first serve, right? There's these spots. Then you got to turn everybody around and send them back. So that model doesn't work. So we really had to look at this and kind of tear it apart and come up with something that gives us the phased ability to ensure everybody gets where they're trying to go, But also, please know to all of our audience, we are always going to be about the middle and the back of the pack. So this is a model of a phased approach to try to figure out, eventually we'd love to be in the time frame of we send everybody by shuttle, but we know we can get them there in the right time frame to ensure the experience and the overall hydration and nutrition of their athletes. I'll pause there. I said a lot, and I'm sure you're thinking of some things, Fatty.
For sure, we have a couple of questions, and I'm thinking very selfishly here. First of all, how many crew people per racer can go on these shuttles?
Perfect question. So we looked at that as well, and this has become something that has been another area of consideration. And we are starting to see this amazing piece where we've got more and more large crews able to show up and support their athletes. And simultaneously, we don't necessarily have the space. Unfortunately, the sort of environment that we're in precludes our ability to have 10,000 people out there. So this year we're taking, again, what I believe ultimately will help our crews down the road go, hey, I can only have this amount of people here and this amount of people there. It will give structure. And so this year at Twin Lakes and at Lost Canyon, we're going to be giving out 4 wristbands that are color-coded for their crews for each one of those locations. So 4 crew members for each location. And this was another part of a long conversation with athletes with all different perspectives of what's the right number? Like, how many people do we really need at each crew station to make sure that we attend to our athletes and give them the best opportunity to be as successful as they possibly can? And the number we came back with comfortably was not wanting to take away the vibe, the fun, the party, the whole thing, and the experience and the celebration, but also manage the impact and the overall, just massive amount of numbers and ensure that everybody could get there safely was 4. So what you're going to see, athletes, crews, everybody, what you're going to see this year is when you go through registration, you will get color-coded wristbands for those areas. So for Twin Lakes, what'll happen out there, just to be really clear and kind of succinct about it, the color is blue. So the wristbands will all be blue. And every racer will get 4 wristbands that are blue colored for Twin Lakes for their crew. They will also get a different color for Lost Canyon. And there'll be 4 allowed out there as well. And then the gold, red, silver will get parking tags that are gold, red, silver parking tags so that we can just delineate and know exactly what our numbers are that we're working with. So that's kind of what you can expect, or not kind of, that is what you can expect. And all of this, again, will be available on the website, in the athlete guide, in numerous locations. You'll get a direct link to just a web page that has all the updates on it as well.
And of course, we will link to all of that to make it easy for our listeners to get to that and read that, and we'll all digest. But there are not wristbands for outbound or pipeline because anyone can bring as many people as they want to either of those places, correct?
That is correct. This year, and again, I want to just stress this is a phased approach. We are in learning with you and trying to increase safety, make sure we can get emergency services where we need them as quickly as we can and as quickly as we need them. And as we look at this, so this year, Outward Bound and Pipeline will remain without any restrictions on it. So that means, for example, if I'm worried about, hey, I'm going to take a car with my crew for Outward Bound, but that crew is not going to make it to Twin Lakes, can I park 2 cars there? Yes, you can. You can have your car for Twin Lakes and your car for Outward Bound if needed. Now, we'd love to ask you and encourage you, if you don't need 2 cars, cool, great, thank you. And we understand that everybody's trying to manage the best experience for their athlete possible and get their people around this course. And we've known for years that there's some lengthy parts and there's a lot of traffic and congestion. And overall, I think if we get this moving in the right direction, and even if by next year or the following year, we're able to move this to a fully shuttled experience where even the first 3 corrals are on the shuttle as well, but everybody has confidence and is able to get where they're trying to go. What you've done now is decrease the traffic congestion, so you're getting there much faster. It would be the first time that people would actually have a chance to maybe make it from Outward Bound to Twin Lakes. I wouldn't say that that's going to be true this year, if that makes sense, what I'm saying. Again, we should plan on have a crew, 1 or 2 people, whatever you feel is necessary at Outward Bound, and have that for Twin Lakes.
So Hottie and I, for years and years now, have recommended a zone defense crewing approach, where you have someone at each of the places that you want someone to stop, just because there's always the likelihood of someone of getting jammed up and not making it if your racer is counting on you being there. It's best to have someone at each place. It sounds like that has moved from being a recommendation to being more or less a necessity. Folks who are at Twin Lakes should have no expectation that they can crew at Twin Lakes and then get to Outward Bound in time for their racer.
And certainly not, I think in either direction. We know that many of your racers are going to make it between those two locations inside of 30 minutes. And with that knowledge, your ability to get a car and get around there, and park and it's really even the parking and the walking up, like all those things, we're trying to change that so that your car's parked, you get on that shuttle, boom, you're over there as quick as you can be. But no, you still should not be trying to move from Outward Bound to Twin Lakes. Just as I like it, zone defense. I think that's, a great way to think about it. And just how am I going to have the best experience to help my humans? And let's not forget, I have raced this race where I didn't see my crew until power line inbound. So you can race this race without your support. It wasn't intended, mind you, but we just missed each other. And that happens, right? Because there are so many people, and our aid stations are strong and capable of supporting. We have all the fuel, all the hydration, all the things that we need there if you do miss somebody. So not to forget that if something were to happen, and to just bring this stress level down a notch, that there is really solid support on course anyway if you did miss somebody. But I think where we're going to get to is there's just this Bible that's really clear. Hey, I can only have X amount of people here, but what that really tells me is I need to have my person here, I need to have my person here. Here's my structure, here's where I park. I don't have to worry about some of these dynamics. You're going to get pulled in on the shuttle just at the bottom of the hill. You'll still have to walk up the hill at the dam, that last little bit of the hill, but not that whole. You're not going to be walking from 82. You're not going to be walking a mile or 2 miles to get to the dam. That's going to help shorten some of that a lot too.
Do you have an estimated travel time between Outward Bound and Twin Lakes Dam for a shuttle? Do you know what that might be?
Yeah, I think it'll be about 20 minutes from Outward Bound. We're giving a 20-minute world. So 40-minute, and then if we even, we gauge this against an hour. How do we move everybody? If it was an hour time round trip, how do we get everybody where we need to? So in an ideal world, if everything's working as we plan, and, for me to drive without all this traffic from Outward Bound to Twin Lakes is about 15 to 20 minutes. I say we keep that in mind, and we know that depending on what everybody does, if we all kind of take this idea and work with it, we're going to start to see that time really stick to that 45-minute turnaround time. So a total loop in 45 minutes.
Okay, cool. What happens with the day-use area, what's called the Mountain View Observation Site? It's that feed zone. If you're outbound, folks, and you're approaching the dam, it's actually that first stretch of feeders you run into. Tamara, what happens to that Mountain View Observation day-use parking lot area with your new plan?
So that will be a part of the gold, silver, red piece at this point. And basically the reason for this is because we can't set up early there. We cannot get gear over there. We cannot get Friday access on that because it's public use and it's day use and it's paid. And we will be utilizing it. And certainly you can get on a shuttle and you can walk over there if you have somebody in your crew or if you want to go over and snag a space, but that will be part of the parking plan in terms of this phased approach. So it'll be a part of that gold, silver, red. We will be able to get in there at 5 a.m. on Saturday morning. So again, same thing. We're starting the shuttles at 5, but we'll also be starting the ability for our folks who are driving to get out there early as well. As we know, some folks like to be at the start line. Some people like to get out and find their spot and be set up. So trying to accommodate all things.
On the day of the race, can a crew be dropped off by car at Twin Lakes Dam and then that car leave the area?
No. We're trying to decrease traffic out there. We are trying to get people. No, it's a good question. I appreciate that.
Well, no, I was wondering if that's a parking issue at the dam, then that car never parks there. Does it matter how the crew gets there?
But what you're getting into is now you've got 1,000 cars driving out there. That does not, we're really trying to work at making sure the shuttles stay efficient. So we're really wanting to stick to that plan as much as possible.
And does the same thing apply to motos or e-bikes and so forth who, these lighter vehicles that might, send a motorcycle out to park there or send an e-bike out there to park there?
No parking.
Okay. No parking, period. Okay, well, that simplifies things. Let's talk about Lost Canyon, or what we always have called Twin Lakes Alternate. That's Hottie's favorite place to set up, and there are some changes about when you can set up and how many people you can have there. So let's talk about that.
I don't know if there's a necessary change on when we're looking at the setup for that is race day. And what is different is we do have a limit on the crews. So 4 crews. We are going to actually open up a little more parking out there in that area. So I don't foresee any issues if we have a few more people who are like, hey, I really want my own car. I don't want to have to deal with this shuttle thing. I want to go to Lost Canyon. That option is there.
Can we set up the night before, or the afternoon before?
Nope.
Okay, so that is a change.
You were not supposed to be setting up the night before out there previously either.
Oh, we never have set up the night before there. Never. We would never consider that. And hundreds of other people haven't either.
You are going to see our staff out there, and it is like, as we move through this system, and again, this has been, and I'm aware of this piece, and it has been brought to my attention a few times, but you're going to see our staff out there on Thursday as well, on Thursday and Friday, and supporting that we try to stick with the plan in terms of setting up out there on race day as opposed to the night before. And you could find yourself being asked to remove your things, and if you come out on Friday to set up.
Okay. A quick one here, Tamara, again on Lost Canyon. How early could a crew potentially set up at Lost Canyon on race morning?
On race morning, we have it set at 6 a.m. right now.
All right, fantastic. Now, I am trying to figure out whether it's possible for my mom and her husband to come see the race this year. They are in their mid-80s. So there may be a time when they need to get out of Twin Lakes pretty quickly. You know, if the day is hot or they're just not feeling well. I imagine there's similar concerns for crews that have a lot of kids where they may need to leave. Will there be shuttles that are able to get folks back home or back to Outward Bound pretty quickly throughout the day?
Those shuttles, you're going to see them looping until we have everybody back. So we don't expect that we'll need 20 shuttles moving once we get everybody out there. We don't expect that we'll need 20, but we're going to keep everybody in rotation until we see how this actually plays out. And we will have shuttles moving. What you could expect is probably every 10 minutes you can grab a shuttle based on how many we have, and that they will continue to loop.
Tamara, you had some downtown shuttles too in your first years of working shuttles. Do those still exist? Can people shuttle from downtown Leadville to anywhere, or those have been replaced by the Outward Bound kind of main traffic hub?
We'll have a handful of shuttles moving from Leadville to Outward Bound, but the goal is really to, I think, push as much of that traffic out to Outward Bound and have them parked there as we can, because now that also decreases the overall congestion. It gives people more ability to move about once they get back to Outward Bound and get back to town and get parked as they want to.
So let's talk about the starting line, finish line area. Is there similar adaptations that are being set up for where people can put their cars when they are going to watch the beginning of the race or when they come back to watch the end of the race?
So everything there will stay status quo, which is we've been asking folks to park at community fields, which is the rodeo grounds, if you're more familiar with it in that way. The high school, the middle school will have parking staff there. We do have shuttles running to and from that for the start. And we will want to continue. There will not be any parking at the start-finish line. There is no parking. You're going to see more no parking signs along 6th Street. We have had continued issues unfortunately, with us coming in and utilizing spaces that are private residents and residents not being able to park in front of their own home. So we've really got to be attuned to that. And, it's again, this piece of understanding, and it's hard. We don't, it seems like it's just a weekend, but for folks in Leadville, it's many weekends in a row. And so our consideration here is huge. You're going to see more no parking signs along 6th Street specifically, and really want to encourage you to please, please, please use the community fields, use the high school, use the parking lots that we have. There will be staff there to help direct you, help get you where you need to be. There will be shuttles to help you get there and drop you off right at the start finish.
In the increasing world of e-commerce, trying before buying has become a difficult proposition. Your next best option is eyeing before buying. For bike clothing, the DNA website is a great place to get a look at what you could be wearing.
And we can tell you from experience that the pictures and descriptions on the DNA site are accurate. The sizing charts, color photos, and feature descriptions are going to get you pointed toward the right stuff.
The harder bit is getting an idea how a custom kit might turn out. A good idea, though, is to turn to a DNA athlete and see how they look in jerseys and bibs with the DNA design touch. Lifetime Grand Prix athlete Alex Wilde has won. After being overlooked last year by the Grand Prix, Alex is back, and he's flashing the DNA colors.
Yeah, Alex rides for Cycle Sport. His kit features their logo prominently. The jersey has this very cool camo pattern to it, and there are some other smaller sponsors on the jersey pockets, but the thing I like most is on the rear of his jersey, right below his collar. DNA put Alex's personal logo right there. It's a bold AW, and his name is right beneath.
Yep, that's the kind of stuff DNA can do. The requisite and the cool. Take a look at Alex's DNA kit on his Instagram page, and then go over to DNAcycling.com, start working on your design, tell them you want your name on your jersey, and tell them the Leadville podcast sent you. We should be seeing the Stars and Stripes jersey at the Leadville Trail 100. The current U.S. mountain bike marathon champ is Cole Patton. He is in the Grand Prix, so chances are he's going to be at the Leadville 100. If for some reason he doesn't wear the jersey, look for the guy with a helmet that has the Feed logo on it. Cole is yet another fast mountain biker who relies on the Feed for his nutrition.
Recently, the Feed revealed what Cole takes in for nutrition. His carb intake per hour during a race or hard ride is a whopping 120 grams. His go-to for those carbs is Scratch Super Fuel, Never Second C30 gels, and SIS Beta Fuel Chews. Now, that's what works for Cole. What works for you is likely an entirely different thing, both from a carb count aspect and the mix of hydration and nutrition.
Yeah, Cole's carb intake is probably way too much for most of us, at least to start with. But any of us could try to up our fueling step by step, and certainly you could try some of the stuff Cole has in his pockets and bottles.
If this all starts to seem like a little bit too much information for you, and Cole may be a little bit busy racing and training and so might not be able to take your call, the Feed can help. You can write them at coaching@thefeed.com. When you're ready to stock up, you can claim an annual credit of $80 by going to thefeed.com/Leadville, register your email, verify your phone number, and then you can spend your first Feed credit of $20 right away.
Okay, back now with Leadville Trail 100 race director Tamira Jenlink.
Any changes as far as amenities, porta potties, for example?
There is a change this year. This has been a large discussion for us. You're going to see on race morning, so actually Friday night, we're going to pull probably all of the pots, because now we stage on Harrison Avenue, and we're continuing forward with staging on Harrison Avenue. That has been a wonderful, I think, shift, and it just awesome to be kind of right on Harrison, come around the corner there. We're going to pull those pots from up at the expo lot, and we're going to add more. So you're going to see 10 pots on Harrison Avenue along the courthouse there, and you're going to see 10 on 6th Street, lining these corrals, so that we have access. You're going to have a way to get to it. And please, we want to encourage, we are still seeing this coming back to us where people are ending up in residents' yards, in their back alleys, and it just does not bode well for the event overall. And it's something that continues to get talked about. We spent almost as much time talking about that as we did other key points of the changes. So we're going to do our part in the sense of trying to create more accessibility, particularly for the start, and then we'll pull those out of there later.
Let's talk about the starting line. We know that, and it's been a long time on the website, that you have taken what was white 1, white 2, white 3 corrals and turned it into white corral and 2 brown corrals. Who gets put in the white corral and who gets put in these 2 different brown corrals?
Everything has been updated across times for all events. So it's still the same way it was, but the difference is you see a change. So where you had, depending on which event it is, and you might have been placed in the white corral before, you might be in the brown corral now, or you might have actually got bumped up a corral based on your times at a qualifying event. Everybody else, again, same kind of idea. We're still, if you don't have a time, you don't have a qualifying time, you don't have any of those pieces and parts, you will be in the brown corral for this moment. We're always going to have that corral to some degree, because we have people gloriously and wonderfully who've never done any of these events, and this is their first time bucket list, and they just don't have a qualifier time to bump them up. We do encourage you to get here when you can and do a qualifier that helps you bump that placement. We are We've added a few things in Arkansas and California, so we're trying to broaden the opportunity to do that. But it is kind of the same approach it's been. But hopefully what we're doing is spreading out some of those folks a little bit and giving a little bit more room by adding more times that might accommodate some folks who were not quite making it past that brown corral time now.
Now, Tamara, I will Venmo you $100 right this second if we will change the name from Brown Corral to Bronze Corral or anything else.
It's so funny. That has definitely garnered some attention, and I wonder why that is. Where's our mindset today?
Well, we just went from the porta potties to Brown Corral.
To Brown Corral. Now I'm in the poop corral. Is that what you're saying?
I'm just saying you've got a gold corral, a silver corral. Bronze corral makes perfect sense. You go gold, silver, bronze, then red, and then you stick with white. Why am I not your marketing department?
I don't know why you're not.
Tamara's writing some notes there, and she's also sending me her Venmo account. Okay, you don't even have to change the color on the plates you've probably printed out. Just call it bronze instead of brown. It's not so much to ask.
Eldon, it's your podcast. We'll talk about whatever you want to talk about.
We just did.
Poop corrals and bronze corrals.
Now, I have never called it the poop corral. I want to be super duper clear on that.
Oh, it's come up in so many places. Like, it's just been a funny topic where I'm like, so what would I have called it that wouldn't have had, how did brown just end up being the, anyway, moving on, it's funny.
So, but there are other changes in the corrals. Let's talk about them because I think these are a little more exciting.
As we move forward with the Grand Prix, but also just our pro and all the different elements of what happens in the front end of that, we're going to see the pro corral, the pro men's and pro women's. So we'll have a gold 1 and gold 2. Pro men's will go out first at 6:25 a.m. And then pro 2 or women's pro women gold 2 will go out at 6:30 on the same time that we generally have started the event. And the purpose here really is just safety. It's 100% safety. And while we would love to even send our women out first, we have conferred with them, and this is really coming up with a decision around how to keep this the safest start that we can. So you'll see pro men 6:25, pro women 6:30, and then we'll be back to normal kind of time frames.
Yeah, and I think what that also preserves is the current wave starts. The times for the wave starts, your cutoff times, those all stay the same, correct? Even though you've kind of altered what's happening up front?
Everything is preserved. We had to make some changes a few years ago when we looked at this shift with those wave starts and the times and all of that, and had to address the cutoffs at the aid stations to make sure that everybody had the same time frame to get through as everybody else, depending on which corral you were in. So that is all preserved. There's no changes there.
Oh, I guess we should correct one thing, though. Outward Bound has its own cutoff time now instead of the pipeline cutoff time.
Outward Bound, inbound. That is a treat to say.
Right. So you're outward bound, inbound. So we took out pipeline, doesn't have the arch, doesn't have the timing mat. That's all at outward bound. So that cutoff time is 4:00 p.m. So a slight shift there. And just a heads up to folks, again, we're going to see at that outward bound station, just this kind of highlights to me, a couple of things that I want to just highlight with folks. We have seen in the run where people want to congregate on Highway 300 as their person comes through. We're not going to be allowing anybody on Highway 300 standing there. You're going to need to be inside. The crew section is going to be separate from the timing mat and the aid station section just to support this. And what that's going to mean is you're going to need to get through, once you go through that timing piece, we've had this issue sometimes as well where we get through and it's been a hard work to get there, but then we've sat down, had athletes sitting down and not moving on after they get through that timing mat. So it's going to be really important that as you come through that outward bound 4:00, it's going to be right at the aid station, but separate from your crews. You will have already seen your crew. Then you hit that. So you're going to need to be on it to get through that and also stay on it and keep moving. This is a search and rescue issue. We need to make sure that we have search and rescue behind you. Reminder and highlight here to everybody. If you miss a cutoff, we are no longer, for the last few years, allowing folks to continue on the course. We do need to have you exit and go home in a different, either come home a different way or get a ride from there and take the shuttle. We'll have shuttles. We'll have We actually have a new bike trailer, so we'll be able to get you and your bike in a van to the next place easily. But just kind of those highlights of hit that 4:00 p.m. outward bound, but you're going to need to keep moving. So keep that in mind.
Okay, I'm going back to the starting line and the brown 1 and 2 corrals. Will they have separate starting times? I know that I don't know if it was last year or the previous year, the white 2 and 3 got compressed together at the starting line.
They have separate times. So they have brown 1 is at 6:47:30, and then brown 2 is at 6:50.
One final big question about something that has never happened at this race before. This year, there are 2 people who are going to be up for 30-year buckles. Is there anything special you've got planned for Todd Murray and John Callahan?
Well, we're not going to give that away right now. Come on now, it's special. We are super excited to have Todd and John both racing their 30th year. They're also guiding, at the camp, so they'll be there for that. Tremendous, just wonderful. We're looking forward to celebrating with him. And we've got a couple things up our sleeves, but we'll keep that one for the finish and the time spent together out there when we celebrate.
Looking forward to that. Tamara, I don't think we are done talking, but this has been super informative. Thanks so much.
Yeah, we wish you good luck with your inbox as this stuff goes out.
Can I just redirect right now? Hey, and I want to say thank you to you guys, and I agree with you. I don't think we're done talking. And to your audience, we welcome your questions. Help us refine this. This is a collaborative effort, and we're making changes here that are really in the longevity of the course, the impact, but also your experience. We do ultimately want to provide the experience that is the best possible for everybody from the first to the last person out there. And please help us. So if you see a question, love to hear it. If you could send that to Rochelle instead of me. No, I'm just kidding. I would love to get your emails, and appreciate Hottie and Fatty, you guys taking the time to ask all these questions and help me sift through it too. It helps every time, every different way we look at it helps. So thank you.
We all love this race.
Yes, we do.
Okay, lot to take in there. Thanks to Tamara for spelling it all out. We did miss one thing during the interview, and that was how crews can pick up their large items stationed at Twin Lakes Dam after the race.
Tamara told us that racers and or crew will be able to return to Twin Lakes Dam starting at 5 p.m. race day to pick up gear, and there will likely be an opportunity on Sunday to gather up those larger items as well. They are also considering allowing crew to transport larger items on shuttles returning to Outward Bound on race day. The idea here is that since the volume on return shuttles should be lower, those buses might have the ability to carry gear as well as people. Stay tuned on that detail.
Like the rest of you, Hottie and I are digesting all of this and are working to understand and game out how this is going to play out this year. If you haven't read the race guide yet, be sure to. We made a nice little link that'll let you go straight to it. It is leadville.fm/guide. It feels like crew strategy is really going to be the biggest thing here that needs to be considered, reconsidered, and gamed out, Hottie.
Yeah, Fatty and I plan to do a follow-up show with our thoughts on what was spelled out here, so look for that soon. If you'd like to start hashing it out immediately, get on our Slack channel and start digging in. It can be found at leadville.fm/Slack.
If you like this show, go wherever you listen and give us a 5-star rating, write us a review, and to see all the ways you can find this show, you can go to leadville.fm.
Good luck in your Leadville training and planning. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you at the starting line.
Or at Outward Bound, whether it's Outward Bound outbound or Outward Bound inbound.
Ouch.